Making Tax Digital. What is the latest? What is happening? Hi, I'm Kimberly Shapcott, qualified chartered accountant, property investor and entrepreneur. Let's sit down and have a chat. Making Tax Digital. I wanted to give you an update at the end of 2024 on where we are with the Making Tax Digital changes. We're now under 2 years away from the implementation for the first group of individuals that are going to be affected by Making Tax Digital. We're not expecting any further delays, so we're pretty certain it's going to happen now. So anyone with over 50,000 gross rental income or income in their self-employed business, or a combined total of both, so if you are self-employed and have a little rental income, you may still be caught within the Making Tax Digital regime. You are going to be starting in April 2026, with your first submission being due by the 5th of July 2026. So let's go back to the beginning of why all this is happening, just so you can get an understanding of what is the purpose, what is the reason, why are we even doing this? So the initial part that we probably need to be talking about is the fact that HMRC are basically moving house. And when I say basically moving house, they have a really old server that is in situ, which is housing a lot of their data. And they're now looking at moving some of that data to a new server. Now, Making Tax Digital is basically like moving the sofa. It's not the big move that everyone thinks it is for HMRC. It is just a small piece of the big picture. So in essence, HMRC are moving house and Making Tax Digital is coming because that's the new sofa that we're putting into that new server, that new house that they are moving to. Now what this means is they are trying to look at making things run more smoothly. Some of the things that they're looking at achieving with the Making Tax Digital changes and their ambitions as an organisation are to make sure that they're collecting the right amount of tax and that you're paying the right amount of tax, which obviously is something that we all want to be doing as well. We don't want to be paying too much, we'd rather be paying less, but we want to be paying the right amount of tax. They want to ensure that they're getting the right consent, so the right information, the right time, the right people with the right access to that information as well. On the new system, this is going to be a lot easier because obviously the IT systems are a lot more up to date than the historic systems that are currently in place. And from a governmental point of view, they're wanting an agile, resilient tax administrative system so that we can move forward into the future as the world becomes that so much smaller place than it used to be, to make sure that it's all fitting together in the global economy. Now you may say, well, how is Making Tax Digital actually going to achieve that? Because they seem very big things that they're trying to achieve as some of their goals as an organisation. And this is where we, the public, come into play, because we're the ones that are going to be submitting things on a quarterly basis, on a digital basis, and keeping our records digitally, which is then making it easier for everyone to assess what should be happening, what shouldn't be happening, what is right, what is wrong, to end up with the right information in the right place at the right time. So it's just getting the information to them on a more timely basis so they can be assessing what is, what isn't going to need to be paid. Now, at this point in time, there is no intention of collecting tax any sooner. So your tax will still just be in the January payment and the July payment, depending what you have to pay. As a bit of a skeptic, I think things may change in the future, but there are no signs of that at the moment, and until everyone's on the Making Tax Digital regime, there's probably little chance of that happening, at least until after 2030 onwards. In terms of penalties, they're looking to try and be fairer. So those that are complying and doing what they're meant to be doing have no issues, which hopefully is all my subscribers and audience watching. However, if you're not doing things right, hopefully that means that the penalties will be fairer. So if you have a bit of a boo-boo, then it's a little penalty. If you make a bit of a whopper, it's going to be a bit bigger. But hopefully it makes it a little fairer, so only those that are doing things properly wrong and intentionally wrong are going to be the ones that are stung the most, rather than those that are semi-innocently doing something that they shouldn't be doing. Hopefully it means that we can be working with those people rather than penalising them and not supporting them, helping them get into the right way of doing things. And obviously the main one here is they're replatforming. They're moving things from one server to the new server, so they're getting everything ready to move our tax system forward. So hopefully the information is correct. Hopefully what we can get back from them is correct. As I know from someone who is dealing with them on a day-to-day basis, things are a little slow at the minute. Things are a bit difficult at times. So the better we can get them working, the easier it is for us to interact with them, the easier we get answers, the sooner we can make sure everything's right. So we're not having these discussions which are taking months and if not years to resolve some of these queries that we have with them. And hopefully that means their team can be focusing on supporting us as well as us getting the right information to them at the right time. Now the key bits to make sure we're aware of at the moment is we know that those over 50,000 are going to be going into Makingtaxdigital in April 2026. We also know that in 2027, in the April, those with 30,000 gross rental income or gross self-employed income or a mix of the both are going to be into Makingtaxdigital as well. There is currently no intention to bring anyone else in yet. There is a mandation that anyone over 10,000 can be brought into Makingtaxdigital. However, there is currently no plans to put the 10,000 income to 30,000 income into Makingtaxdigital yet. Now, if I'm a bit of a thinker, planner, when is that going to be happening? I don't think we're looking at that happening until at least 2029, 2030. So we do have a bit of time. And the key thing here is that gives them time to test how the system works, make sure it's all fitting together. So when those people with slightly less income come into play and they have to be going into some sort of Makingtaxdigital, it means that they are going to be in a good position because it should be a smooth transition into the system because they'll have tested it with everybody else. It'll be a smooth transition to get those submissions sent because they'll have been receiving them from a number of people already throughout that time period. Obviously, as a landlord, you may go, I'm okay, I'm only at 10, 20,000 income with the properties that you've got. But the one thing I would say is you just need to keep an eye out on as you potentially expand your portfolio, you may be reaching that point where you're tipping over into maybe that 30,000 if you're near the beginning of your property adventure. If you are slightly further down the line, it may be that you are just trickling into the 50,000, but that kind of, you're going to be brought in at the 30,000 by 2027 anyway. So there is just a keep an eye on what is going to be happening, and we'll be talking about what happens when you have to be looking at whether you're in or not in the next 12 months as we get closer to that date where implementation is going to be happening. Now, something to make you aware of is that there is some testing going on at the moment. So you can actually get into the Makingtaxdigital regime now and move into one of their beta testing stages, which potentially helps them get things right for everybody else. And it will also enable you to be able to see how it all fits together, see how it works, to make sure when it does come in properly, you're doing it correctly. So one thing I want to tell you about today is a bit about the beta testing phase that they're going through, because it may be something that say, actually, I'd like to get involved. I do everything perfectly anyway. I'm going to be in it. I'd like to know how it fits together. One of the positive things is if you do get anything wrong at this stage, there's no issues. They're not going to be charging any penalties or anything like that because they're just in some ways appreciating the feedback they're getting to help make that system work better. Now for the current tax year, the 24-25 tax year, they've been doing some private testing and had some volunteers who have been actively testing it for them for this tax season in essence. Now, coming into next year, into April 2025, they are making it a public testing, which means you can get involved and you can help support and give feedback on how it's working if you'd like to get involved. One of the great things about if you did want to get involved is there's no penalties, And also you get access directly to someone at HMRC who will be supporting and helping you so that they can make sure that they're getting things right and get your feedback to help design, help make the software work better so it's fitting, to make it smooth for us as landlords as well as for HMRC to get the data that they're looking at getting. So for anyone out there who's thinking, I might get in early, go for it, give it a go and see how it fits together. Now I will say not everyone can get involved, and it will depend very much on the income and deductions that you're receiving. There is some eligibility criteria, so if you're thinking you might want to get involved, then do check out the eligibility criteria to see whether you are able to. One thing I will note is when you do go into the Makingtaxdigital side of things, you will be taken out of self-assessment. They're not the same system, they are slightly different. So on that basis, you just need to watch that you are doing the right things and you're ticking the right boxes. But hopefully your accountant will be there to support you to make sure you're obviously getting everything right and everything's being sorted as it needs to be. In conclusion then, to give you a bit of a summary, we know that Makingtaxdigital is coming in April 2026 for those with over 50,000 income. That is being closely followed in April 2027 by those over 30,000 gross income. Now what you will then have to be doing is you'll be doing your quarterly submissions, which can be done on tax months, or there is an election available that you can do it on a calendar monthly basis, which may or may not be easier depending on your business. When you've done your quarterly submissions each quarter, you'll then do a final submission, in effect like a tax return of the current system. That will then summarise any of the final data to make sure that that fits together with everything that you've got, to give a final confirmation of, in essence, the tax that will be payable and any payments on account as necessary. The submissions, as far as we're aware, are a cumulative point, so if something does get missed, you can incorporate it into the next submission and you don't need to be going back and fixing previous submissions. The main aim is that your final submission makes sure that you conclude everything to give the right end result for that tax period. Makingtaxdigital is coming, so the key thing that we want to be doing is be getting ready. See if you're going to be impacted by it straight away or maybe down the line, and as necessary, get started looking at the right systems, the right software to make sure that you are ready and prepared as these changes come into place. Speak to your accountant who will hopefully be aware that this is coming, and then you can plan with them any changes you need to make in your digital record keeping to ensure that things are working. There is a number of software that is ready to be working with the Makingtaxdigital and a number of software that is nearly there. It's just waiting for the final pieces of their puzzle to get it all working. So keep an eye out there. Let me know any questions and I will see about updating you as soon as we have more information on what is to come with Makingtaxdigital. Hopefully today you've discovered what is happening with Makingtaxdigital and how you can get involved. If you have any questions, then please do leave a comment. Please like the video and do subscribe to the channel. And let's make tax less taxing. Let's make tax less taxing.